Hi, Luke. Just testing you can hear us okay. Morning, Fiona. Morning, Xander. Can I just check that you can hear us okay?
Morning, James.
Thank you, Xander. Hiya, Anne. Can I just make sure that you can hear us okay?
Morning. Yes, I can. My camera's off for some reason, though.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well, that's no worries about your camera. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, folks, it's nearly 9:30. If we can take our seats. morning, everybody. My name is Eleanor McIntosh. I'm the Vice Convener of Planning. And because we've lost Gaynor off the board as of our last meeting, I'm standing in until we can get a new convener in place. And that's a process we're currently going through. So by the next meeting in December, there will be a new convener. So excuse me if I'm a little bit rusty this morning, but we'll do our best. This is a hybrid meeting, so we have some members online and along with the members around the table. Are we live at this minute, James? Yeah. So can I ask you, James, to do a roll call, please?
Russell Jones.
Good morning. Here. Here.
John Kirk. Laura McCallum.
Here.
Peter Cosgrove.
Here.
Sandy Bremner.
Here.
Eleanor McIntosh.
Morning.
Fiona McLean.
Morning.
Xander McDade.
Good morning.
Morning.
Anne Ross.
Good morning.
And Hannah Grist.
Good morning.
Thanks, James. So we have apologies from Jiva Blackett, Steve McElroy and Bill Loban. Otherwise, we're all present. Now, can we move on to item 3 on the agenda, which is declaration of interest on any item on today's agenda. If you can give me the item number and the reason for the declaration and whether or not you'll be staying in the room or leaving. Have I got any? No. Nothing online either. Okay, nothing there. So we'll move on to item 4, which is the minutes. Right, so it's the minutes of our previous meeting, and that's the public meeting on the 22nd of September. We'll take the confidential minutes of that meeting at the end of this meeting if members agree. Okay, so we're only looking at the public minute. Can I take it the minute is approved?
Yeah, although Eleanor, I was present at the last meeting, but the minutes don't reflect that.
Okay, that's sorted, Lauren.
So it didn't make an impression on Gavin, unfortunately.
Never mind, you've got today to prove your case. Okay, so we'll get Lauren's name added or changed to the correct bit. Other than that, we're happy with the minutes. Okay. There's no matters arising from or action points from that minute. But is there anything that's not covered elsewhere on today's agenda that anybody wants to raise? No. Okay, that's great. Right, so we'll get on to our applications, and the first application is item 5, and Gavin's going to take us through this one, and it's for planning permission in principle for staff accommodation and infrastructure at the Aviemore Centre in Aviemore.
Thank you, Eleanor. So if we just go to the first slide, then you can see that's the location plan in the centre of Aviemore. I'm sure most people know the site. It's the large area of various bits of concrete, bits of road, some trees and bunding around the centre of the Aviemore McDonald Resort. That's the applicant's location plan. That's an aerial view of the site, and you can see the red line surrounding the large sort of concrete area to the north, the mown grassland to the south, a sort of spur that heads out through a bit of a road and car parking towards the west of the site and boundary with the A9. And then there's also a very sort of narrow sliver between one of the roads through the site and the Milton Burn on the eastern side of the site. A little bit of grass there and then a very steep slope down to the Milton Burn. This is an indicative layout that the applicant provided, really just to demonstrate that there would be space for up to that many units. Clearly, whether it was that many units, fewer or more, will depend on the detail of the design in future, but that demonstrates that it would be possible in theory to get that many units onto it and to have the necessary drainage and areas of landscaping within that as well. But that plan isn't a plan that we would be approving. That's just to show you from the point of view that it's possible to do this. So we wouldn't approve that. All of the detail to come with that application would have to come through further applications to discharge the conditions that we're recommending that you put on. Just to, if anyone doesn't know the site well, this is a view from the north, from the roundabout on the road, looking south across the site. You can see the Aviemore Hotel on the left, and the Scandinavian Village would be to the right. Sorry. Obviously just frozen, apologies. We might jump a few in one go. Thanks. Hopefully it'll stay there. So yeah, this is from about halfway down the eastern side of the site, looking more or less northwest across the grassland. That's from the sort of south end of the site, immediately at the western end of the Aviemore Hotel, looking north. So the road on the left is the boundary. So and then that road on the right is also the boundary. It's a wide-angle view. The far end on the right-hand side is actually the entrance to Tesco's car park. That's a view looking from the sort of southwest corner of the site. Again, the road on the right-hand side is actually the boundary, so it's then the land between that road and the road that the photo is taken from. And you can just see the concrete beyond the trees. This is a view from the very western tip of the site, so looking back across what is currently car parking, and obviously there's accommodation units proposed within that area. It's quite a wide spur that heads out to the west. And finally, that's just a view from more or less outside the Scandinavian Village, looking onto the large area of parking. So the main considerations are the principle of development, and obviously this site is allocated as a part of a mixed-use development in the centre of Aviemore. So the principle of development is acceptable. It's been set in the development plan. We expect developments to come forward here. A little bit about placemaking, but obviously without any detail at this stage, it's quite hard to say very much more, but certainly it's capable of being designed into a successful part of Aviemore in a good place. Landscape and amenity, again, very little that we can say in detail at this point, other than it's possible to accommodate development within that area. Similarly, on environmental impact, I mean, you can see from the photos of the site that the current biodiversity value of the site is relatively modest, given that it's very manicured grassland and a few trees, which have some value. And then the most important part of the site is the boundary along with the Milton Burn, which is a corridor. And you'll see there are conditions in there that are effective about ensuring that, as well as the landscape value of the site, the biodiversity value of the site is improved in through any further applications for the detail. Access and servicing, that's considered possible, acceptable. You'll note that there is a condition in the proposed condition that seeks to secure or effectively safeguard a link road through the site, and for the detail to reflect that in future. And finally, contaminated land, which was raised as simply there needs to be a bit of investigation around the site just to check that it's safe and it was safely cleaned up before its previous uses. But altogether, this is simply planning permission in principle on a site that's allocated for development in the local development plan. All of the detail for this site will come through further applications to discharge those conditions, and those applications, although they're not full planning applications, they convert this into a full planning consent, and only once they are discharged can development commence. So this consent today doesn't guarantee the ability to develop. One other point to note here is that within the last year or so, some of the legislation around applications for planning permission in principle have changed. So you'll note the conditions are slightly different in that there's now a condition that sets the duration of the consent, which is automatically 5 years now. And if they have not started development after 5 years, then the development will lapse. So that means that all of these other conditions need applications to have come in and have been determined successfully before development can start. So we recommend approval.
Okay, Gavin, so there's nobody addressing the committee on this one. Okay, members, what I should have said at the beginning, for today's meeting, we do have our legal advice online. Peter is somewhere in the ether, and if anybody does want to make a motion on any of the papers today, he will meet you in a virtual room somewhere through there, beyond my understanding, but he is here, although he's not at the table. Okay, so back to this application at Aviemore. Questions and clarity? So it's really just the idea of the application that we're approving today. No questions and clarity. Any discussion points there? Don't go all silent on me. John?
The idea is good. There's a downside, you know, thunder in the glens and things like that, which is something that will disappear from the valley, and it is a good central point. There is nowhere else like this in Aviemore, but I can understand where the hotel's coming from. You know, it's business. I'll make more business than that, but I don't know whether there's been any suggestions from them of any other bits of ground. I don't know. Just a question.
Yeah, I think they are looking at how they can still accommodate other events on other land on the resort side, because there is a lot of other space within the land that they control. So they are looking at that because they realise it's an important part of what they provide in the community.
Okay, members, so I'm taking it that we're content to approve this application. Lauren, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to form my thoughts a little bit here, but I've got a bit of concern about traffic flow, especially in peak times of the summer. So if we've got more traffic coming through Grampian Road and not being able to kind of filter through, or yeah, we've got more traffic, that it's just going to make the problem even worse. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, because we all know going through Aviemore during the summer is, you know, you're backed to both ends sometimes. So yeah, I guess a kind of clarity about how having this increased capacity when there's not very much parking, not throughful, how that's going to be impacted and mitigated.
So I suppose two things. So the council's transport planning team have looked at it and said that at this stage, with the information they've got, that the road network could accommodate the additional traffic from those dwellings. But obviously all of the detail about the road network in the site, the way it connects, the parking available in there, that's all something for the future that needs to come forward, and it would only be approved if everybody considered that was acceptable. The condition that we've added around a link road is, as most people know, there's been a lot of work done in Aviemore around improving the Grampian Road for all sorts of users, and to deal with traffic management and flows within there as well. And one option that might be possible at some stage in future would be to create a link road that goes through this site. That's at the very, very early stages just now, so there is no fixed plan for that, but clearly this site is part of that picture, and we want to make sure that that opportunity is maintained if this site is developed in future. So that's why we need any plans that come forward to be able to show that in a way that either facilitates that or doesn't prevent that happening in future.
Thank you.
Okay, so a lot of this is going to come back to us in the future, folks. So can we go ahead and approve this application in principle? Yeah, agreed. Okay, thank you. Right, moving on to number 6. And for those of you who have been on the board a wee while, I'm sure you'll be very pleased as I am to welcome Catherine Donoghue back to the team. Catherine was a planner with us before and she's come back because she misses us so much. But she's a very capable planner, so very welcome back, Catherine. We're moving on to item 6, and this is a very interesting application for detailed planning for the erection of a distillery, 3 warehouses, access, parking, offices, and boreholes up at Lagan. Catherine, over to you.
Apologies of the flying start there. Yeah, this is an application, as Eleanor has described, for a new distillery near Lagan. It's a major application in terms of the Scottish Government's hierarchy of applications, and it's accompanied by an environmental impact assessment. So there's a lot of supporting information with the application. It was also, because it's a major application, pre-application consultation with the community was carried out prior to the application being submitted, and now that it's been submitted, we've had 4 contributions which are attached in the appendices, and also comments from the Community Council, which are all covered and addressed in the planning report. Now, this slide shows the location of the site. For the laser, apologies. Sorry, I'm not very good with this technology. Oh yeah, right. That's the River Spey runs along the north of the site, and that is a site special area conservation. So as a result of that, the impacts of the development on the River Spey had to be considered, and a habitat regulation appraisal was carried out, and that's attached as Appendix 2. The site sits to the west of Lagan, and just immediately to the west of the site is the Spey Dam, and there's 2 bridges crossing the Spey there. There's a little narrow road runs along, unclassified road runs along the top of the Spey, the north side of the Spey, crosses over and then comes down by the site. The site will take access off that road, but then the operational traffic will come through the red line that runs down to the A86, the trunk road from Lagan to Spean Bridge. So that's the general location of the site. You'll see that the general Wade core path bisects the site. It's proposed to retain that within the site. This sort of shows the site and an aerial photo of the site and the amount of trees and landscaping, that there are already trees that are on the site. There's a kind of area of conifer trees here, a plantation, which are largely going to be retained to give a setting for the warehouses that are going in here, but a small part in the middle is being removed and replacement planting proposed around here. Then the access track, the construction operational track, comes through here. That's an existing track that has been formed in the past to serve forestry and renewables. Here is the Black Craig Hill and the fort, which is a prehistoric fort, and it's a scheduled monument, so that sits to the west of the site. This is the location plan, again, just kind of showing the general context of the site. There's a plan. The next slide shows better what the proposals are. I'm afraid I'm struggling with this pointer. Here we are. The access road comes in here, just coming in off the public road that runs along here, and this road runs to the Corriaric Pass in Garvamore. There's a new road will come in here to serve the site. It comes in, there's a proposed marketing suite. It's not open to the public, it's not a visitor centre. This site will not be open to the general public. The marketing suite there, the General Wade Road runs through the site, and the new road will cross the General Wade Road in to serve the rest of the site. The marketing suite will have a footbridge attaching it, going across here so you can get access to the distillery. This is the main distillery building here, and then we have the office building. It's just down here on the side here. There's some tanks and the service yard at the back of the distillery, and then the proposed 3 sets of warehouses for the maturing of the whisky casks, and the access road serving that. So the idea is that the front of house, as they call it, distillery will be facing up that way, and then this area here will be at the back, the warehousing, and there's existing trees here and round here, and this trees in the middle, there's a little plantation of conifers will be removed, and they'll do more planting here. The proposal is also for extensive areas of planting up here as well. And the ford, as I mentioned earlier, is over here. This shows the marketing suite. That's just an elevation of it. It's going to be finished with, as outlined in the report, with black sheeting. And it sits, there's a little rocky outcrop in the site, and it kind of sits into the rocky outcrop. You'll see that better from the photographs. This is the gable elevation of the marketing suite, which will be finished in timber, and then that shows you the little pedestrian bridge that they're taking across to the distillery site. The distillery itself, this is the main elevation that will be facing the proposed north of elevation, facing towards the public road, and it's going to be finished in stone with a steel roof. And then we've got the plant room here to the left is attached to the distillery, finished in Harling, and that's the side elevation of the distillery. Again, this is the rear elevation, which shows the plant room attached to the main distillery with a little pagoda feature on it, and then the rear elevation of the distillery that faces the bottom slide is the elevation that faces into the car parking service area. Again, that's going to be Harled. This is the office accommodation, which is timber, and there's some natural stone on one of the elevations. That's going to include their offices and also some sort of kind of emergency overnight accommodation for staff. It's not residential accommodation as such. It's just for those occasions that will, obviously some of the staff are there overnight. The warehouses, there's 3 sets of warehouses on this proposed. They're going to be finished with black sheeting on the roofs and the walls. The idea of the black being is more recessive in the landscape. And that's just the side elevation of the warehouses. The proposal is to take access, as I mentioned earlier, through from the top road, from the main site down into onto the 86 that runs from Blagan to Spean and it emerges beside the Strathmashi forestry cottages, and some of the concerns of neighbours and of the contributors rather, and of the community council was disturbance from traffic, from the increased traffic. There already traffic going up and down this road, but increased traffic going up the road, and so the applicants have agreed to surface the first extra 50 metres of this track in order that it goes past the access into the Strathmashi cottages, so it's not just a rough, hard-cored surface, and that will reduce dust and noise. And Environmental Health Service are happy with that proposal. So that's a suggested condition of the planning permission. This is the outdoor access plan, and I extract from it that shows there's a network of apologies, I can't get this to work properly. Oh, yeah. Thank you. The track, the main, there's a network of core paths. There's one that runs down the actual forestry track back down to Strathmashi cottages, and it leads up. There's a spur that goes up to the top of the hill ford, and then there's the one that runs right through the site, the General Wade Road. Whilst the development's taking place, that will be diverted, and they'll have a diversion running along the River Spey so that people will still be able to get through on that core path. And then when the development's finished, they will retain the General Wade Road, and there's proposals is to sort of resurface, improve the surface of the road, because the drainage is fairly poor in parts. and they're also the diversion route that they'll have formed, the temporary diversion route. The proposal is to keep that as access track for horse riders, because they won't be able to get underneath the bridge. Well, according to the British Horse Society, the height isn't enough to get under the bridge going across along the General Wade Road. This is looking to the site from as you're coming along the unclassified road from Lagan going towards Spey Dam. You look across, and that peak in the background is the Black Craig, and on the top of that you can't really see it, but in there is the scheduled monument. The side of the hill's been all planted with trees, so the development will sort of sit below that on the valley floor, and there's sort of limited visibility just on sections of that road. You see it across the river Speys in the foreground there. And then this is as you're coming, continuing on round the public road, and you're turning at Spey Dam. The bridge is on the left, and but straight ahead of you can see the Spey Dam. So there is a bit of infrastructure, modern infrastructure, I suppose, or relatively modern, in the area. And then you're looking west towards the Corryarrick Pass in the far distance. That's the bridge that cross to get towards the site, but that isn't the way the construction traffic will be coming. You'll see the road's very narrow. The construction traffic will be coming from the top way in towards the site. That's looking across the site. So here we go. If I can get this to work. Oh, grab it. Thank you. This looking across the site there, that is the Wade houses will sit in that area there. There's a little stub of trees come out there. They'll be removed. The Wade houses will sit there. The marketing suite, this is the rocky outcrop I mentioned earlier. So the marketing suite will sort of sit into that, and that's the Wade Road just at the bottom there. And this whole area is not being developed. It's near the Spey. It's could be prone to flooding, and that area is going to be planted with suitable species of trees, and the distillery will sit in this part here. This is just again looking across the site, again that rocky outcrop where the marketing suite will sit, and then you're looking right across the site to the distance. There's a couple of properties. There's one at Cool Farm and there's one at Crathie further up. A listed building. The State House is right across there beyond the trees. That's just again looking towards the warehousing will be behind that. You're inside the site here, the fort's up there, and the distillery will sit in that part of the site there. This is just looking across the site. That's again back towards the warehousing will be, the trees that will be removed, distillery here, and the General Wade Road. There's that track. It's just a track that runs through the field. And you can see there the drainage towards the end of it is quite poor, and the proposal is to improve that. Again, looking across the site, the outcrop, where the distillery sits, and the context of it. This is the access point going on to the A86 beside Strathmarshy Cottages. That's the road there. The cottages are in to the right there, and this is already surfaced, as you can see. But the proposal is to continue the surfacing further up past on the left there is the access into the Strathmarshy Cottages. So the proposal is to continue the surfacing there. This is some visualizations that the applicants produced, which just kind of give you a bit of 3D ones, give you a bit of context of how it might look on site. The marketing suite, the plant room, the distillery, and the sprinkler tanks there. And these are just sort of just to give you an idea of how it may look, and it shows you the little bridge across from the marketing suite to the distillery. Likewise, there's just some more visualizations of it. And that's 2D visualizations of it. You can see the sort of scale of it and the height of the warehouses, etc. They've produced a few sections, and I think that one kind of shows the scale of this development in the landscape compared to the Black Craig, the hill there. It sits quite low on the valley floor. Viewpoint visualizations. This one is taken from the the road as it turns round into the forestry track, and it's looking down on the side, and there again you can see the marketing suite at year 1, and on the right the distillery, and then at year 10, when they think the landscape will be up and planted, you can see that more of a landscape setting starting to be formed for it. That's another visualisation from the public road, the unclassified road running from Lagan on the other side of the Spey, looking across the Spey towards the site at year 1 at the top, year 2 at the 10, sorry, at the bottom. Now, from our perspective, the principle of this development does comply, in our view, fully with the National Planning Framework and local development plan policies in terms of sustainable rural development. This distillery is being relocated from a site near Tromie Mills at Kingussie, so it's an existing business in the park that's been relocated because of the lease is running out there, and they need a larger site, and also because they want to have the warehousing beside them rather than sending the whisky down to the Central Belt to be matured down there. So it's keeping that business within the national park, and it's also securing the jobs of that business. So it performs well in terms of economic policies, and that when it's being built, there'll be a spin-off, obviously, to the local economy in terms of the construction, etc., of it. And whisky distilling is an important part of the economy. The landscape issues, the landscape impacts have been assessed in the report, and our landscape advisor has assessed it. Our view is that it sits well in the landscape, it's low in the surrounding landscape. It doesn't adversely affect the special landscape qualities of the national park, and the muted kind of colours and the low design of the buildings will mean that they sit well in the landscape. In design terms, it's been designed specifically to try and have the front of house looking towards the public elevations and the warehousing round the back, but it's not designed to be hidden either. It's a proposal that's been well designed in our view, and the landscaping is extensive that's been proposed for it. For the small amount of trees that are being removed, conifer plantation trees, there's a lot of new planting and improvement in biodiversity and landscape from that point of view. In terms of environmental impacts, there's a habitat regulation appraisal that's been carried out, as mentioned earlier. The applicants have done species pre-construction surveys, and there will be requirements for them to do further pre-construction surveys before work starts on site. They're agreeable to employing an ecological clerk of works to supervise things, and their biodiversity enhancements are all set out in the environmental impact assessment. In terms of flooding, water and drainage issues, the water for this distillery, I should have mentioned this earlier, the production water will be coming from boreholes within the site, within that large field that's to the closer to the Spey. That there's no proposal to abstract or discharge water to the River Spey. It's a closed system. So there is no connection as such to taking water out of the Spey. They've got proposals for the sustainable urban drainage system. They're going to have a series of attenuation ponds, which will be planted up, and they've got a cooling pond where the water will be recirculated in the system, within the distilling system itself. It sits out with the floodplain, and both SEPA and the Flood Risk Management Team and the Spey Fishery Board are all content with the proposal, subject to conditions. In terms of access and servicing, it can be suitably accessed off the minor road in terms of the access point, which will be upgraded and a bit of the road widened, and construction and operational vehicles not coming along that minor road but going back down towards the 86. And the Roads Department are happy with the application subject to conditions. In terms of public access, ultimately believe that will be improved by the resurfacing of parts of the General Wade Road and the provision for horse riders, and there won't be any restriction on public access whatsoever. In terms of amenity, there's the Environmental Health Service are satisfied that there's no adverse impacts on those scattered rural properties in the area, and that the impacts upon the cottages at Strathmashi are alleviated, if there were any, by the surfacing on the road. terms of cultural impacts, we've got the fort, the scheduled monument, historic environment. Scotland are happy with the proposal that it won't adversely affect the setting of that monument, given the siting of the building and the scale of the landscape. And the General Wade Road is being safeguarded as well. So our conclusion is that this application fully complies with our policies, that it's welcome development and that it's acceptable subject to planning conditions. And there is quite a suite of planning conditions that we've seen. The principles of the development are all contained within it. It's just finer detail that we're seeking to get from those planning conditions in terms of final surfacing materials, drainage, etc. And these conditions have been shared with the applicant and they're agreeable to them. So our recommendation is approval. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Catherine. Right, members, I'll give you a minute and I'll give you a chance in a minute to ask any questions of clarity from Catherine, but it's just going to tell you that the distillery team are here this morning and they've asked to address the committee, and if you're agreeable, we'll let them do that after I take questions on clarity. Okay, so have I got questions on clarity from anybody? Russell.
Thanks, Eleanor. Catherine, a couple of questions regarding access. In the slides, you showed the narrow bridge where we crossed just before the dam that crosses, and you said that that wouldn't be used for construction traffic. I understood in the papers that wouldn't be used for distillery traffic at all, that all traffic would be recommended to come in off the 86. Was that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
Okay, so there won't be any traffic coming up past Belargy Farm, etc. along there. It'll all come off the 86. Okay, thank you. And the actual track, I'm well aware of the track that comes off the 86. Who actually owns that? Is that a forestry track? And who's responsible for upkeep of that? I mean, I see that we're talking about servicing the first 50 metres after the bellmouth, if you like. But after that, obviously, you're onto a forestry track. And that's going to be the access for perpetuity, I assume. So is that access guaranteed? Who owns it? Is that access guaranteed forever? And who upkeeps that track?
My understanding is that the applicants control that track. That's what we've been advised, because the Roads Department asked that question as well, who controlled the track. My understanding is that the applicants control the track, and as for that upkeep, I guess that maybe the applicants are best placed to answer that question, but my clear understanding is that they control the track.
Okay, thank you. Probably like a wee bit more clarity around that. I mean, what exactly does control mean? And upkeep is pretty important, and is the access guaranteed for, for the lifetime of the distillery, if you like?
We'll let you come back to the applicant on that, Russell, and then depending on the answers, you can come back to Catherine. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to check the line of I should have picked this up, of the General Wade Road on the site and how that runs through the site. Is that easy to show us?
Should be a slide that just shows the general layout. The General Wade site road, the track, just runs right through the field that's going to, the field that is under the applicant's control, or the land holding that's under their control there, and it runs right through it, and there's no proposal to divert or change it in any way.
So I suppose I'm really asking in relation to the
one.
warehouses
That's the one, yeah.
and the actual distillery, where it runs.
I can get this. So there, it's running right through like that. There's it, and the marketing suite's on the top side of the track, and they've got a wee bridge that they're proposing to put across here so people can walk across it to get to the distillery. But the track remains on its current line. But the road, the internal road, will cross the track, and our access officers have asked for further detail, which is one of the conditions, as to how that crossing will be set out, as it were, to ensure that there's pedestrian priority for people coming along the track there. And so the walkers can come along here right now, along the track. They will continue to, but while the distillery's been built, they won't. And they're proposing a little diversion that comes round here, right around here and back down. And that will then be the proposals now to retain that for horse riders to come along there as well. So that's, I suppose, a bit of an enhancement. But there is no proposal to block it off in any way.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Thank you. Any other? Oh, yeah, I've got one. Peter.
It's just questions of clarity in relation to the sort of environmental enhancements that are proposed. Firstly, I was slightly disappointed to not see mention of my favourite species, goldeneye. I've worked on the Cairn distillery here, and we constructed lots of nest boxes for goldeneye, and we've now got 10% of Britain's population breeding in nest boxes there. And I just wondered if there's a possibility still to influence the mix of what you're doing with that, because I think there's a real chance of delivering something quite nationally important with this, with additional boxes. So it was just a question of clarity if we can still ask and add that in. Is that something that can be done?
Well, one of the conditions is asking for the details of the biodiversity enhancements, and if, I suppose it would be appropriate to add in a little bit to that condition, including for goldeneye, because it mentions the bird boxes, and I think it mentions the planting of the SADS pond, so we added in a wee bit about that. Yeah, I'm sure we could do that. Yeah.
And the second thing I wanted to ask was, I think it's quite important with the obviously there's a 0.6 hectares of forestry being removed, and there's going to be quite a lot of tree planting, and it talks about replanting with native species, which is great. Is it possible to just make sure that when we're looking at the condition that takes and is relevant to the trees adjacent to the site? Because if you have a corridor of, say, aspen or whatever it might be, older, putting in native species might sound great, but if you put in the wrong ones, it doesn't really help wildlife. So it's just a case of if there can be a slightly bigger context to that in the detail that's requested, that would be great.
Yeah, I would have thought, we would be expecting them to do that, because the plan that's been put in is in general terms, is acceptable, but it doesn't have enough detail, and that's been picked up by the forestry officer as well. So we would be looking for more detail, and our ecology officer would advise us on that as well. So yeah.
That's great, thank you. That was all I had.
Okay, are we happy to invite the agent to address the committee? Okay, we have David Campbell, who's the planning agent. You have 10 minutes, okay, to give us your address, and then the committee can ask questions from you, or you can pass it on to the rest of your team, whatever's appropriate. Okay, so just when you're ready.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Chair. So yes, I'm David Campbell. I'm the planning consultant on the application. It's John McDonough, the applicant. I think John's going to speak first, and then I'll perhaps, unfortunately, repeat some of what Catherine said, but I'll try not to.
I'm not sure if I should speak first, just to answer Russell's question, or shall I do that at a later stage? Because David...
Well, I would save your 10 minutes and answer Russell when he asks you the question again, and that won't take up your 10 minutes.
Please continue then.
So, yes, I was just going to pass to you.
Okay, so I am John Harvey McDonough, owner-operator of the existing business, Spade Distillery business. We already have a distillery in Kingussie, but we're looking to expand to accommodate our expanding business throughout the world, particularly in the Far East. I'm owner-operator. I also like to cut the grass on the distillery grounds, so I'm very much involved in the business itself. And our family has been involved in whiskey on my mother's side from 1770. My wife and myself live in Aviemore. We have done for the last 10 years. Our lives are locked into the Highlands. We like to do that with the business also. So I'll come back later. I'll allow David to continue.
Do you want me to speak to the planning piece?
Yes, please.
Yeah, fine. So I say apologies, I will overlap on some of what Catherine's been very comprehensive. I'll try and be quick. From the outset of the project, the client has been very clear with the design team that we need to deliver on the Spaceside's operational and business objectives, but also respect the character and setting of the site. And with that in mind, the building design and the landscape design have sort of been developed in tandem, in parallel with each other, with both equally important. That kind of process resulted in what Catherine explained, with the kind of more modest public-facing elements at the front, the sort of northern piece of the site, which is slightly more visible, and the warehousing behind those buildings, and sitting with the backdrop of the landscape and the woodland behind. I think, again, been touched on, biodiversity is very much at the kind of fore of what we're trying to achieve here, particularly with regards to the drainage strategy, the tree strategy, and just, I'm not sure if this is in the report or not, but just to sort of put a bit of kind of metrics to that, we're talking that the existing site's got 5,850 square metres approximately of commercial coniferous woodland, which is of mixed quality, and the proposals are for about 38,000 square metres of new mixed native deciduous planting, and we can certainly accommodate, I'm sure, what was being suggested. So we're talking about sort of six-fold increase and more appropriate types of trees. So those things kind of together will, we hope, deliver quite significant benefits. And it's important to Speyside that the development sits in the appropriate setting, in terms of these kind of environmental kind of credentials. Through both public consultation and the application stages, we've had feedback from both public and from officers about the private road, and we've agreed that we're, as has been mentioned, happy to do some additional surfacing work just to reduce dust emissions up at the houses. There's some traffic calming that we've suggested there as well, just to slow the vehicle speeds down as they enter the road, and we'll look at, through the conditions, signing, line painting, to do with kind of a safer bus drop-off facility. And I think John will pick up on the question about the ownership and maintenance, but certainly it's an intention. Intention is very much to continually maintain that road, because you have an interest in it, and it's in the business's interest to have a road that's appropriate for the traffic, albeit quite light traffic that will use it. General Ways Road, Catherine's talked about that. That'll remain in the line it is, but with a second route, as mentioned, running around the river. There is proposals to carry out some improvement works locally to that within the confines of the site, to the Wades Road, that is, just kind of remove some of the existing water logging, make the surface a little bit more straightforward for people to traverse. As with the existing distillery at Tromie Mills, this won't be open to the general public. There generally will be 3 staff on site at any one time, approximately 1 weekly grain delivery, and less regular, maybe weekly refuse collection, but less regular cask delivery and export, and other sort of servicing visits. So the vehicle movements, once operational, will be pretty limited, and as I say, equivalent to the existing facility. The new distillery will support the existing jobs, both on site and through the local supply chains, and bringing the warehousing on site allows Speyside to obviously carry out on-site maturation, which has a number of sort of operational benefits, but particularly sustainability and kind of cost benefits of not having to transport volumes to the central belt. Catherine's mentioned no objections from any of the statutory consultees or other consultees, and that's probably as much as I'd want to say. Really just welcome the recommendation and hope you can support that. I'll pass back to John.
We also did a presentation, an earlier presentation, which has been shared, I think. So I'm not sure if people have had the opportunity to look through that, or can I drain that?
Yes, I think that's, yep.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can. I won't use the red pointer. But
You have about 4 minutes left. So.
So this is ourselves. So the existing business is Speyside Distillery Company. That's the distillery that we have down in Kingussie. But as David said, we have it on lease. So the lease has been extended a couple of times, but it's likely not to be extended in 2025. So we need to have a permanent home and a home which is long term for us. But we're very familiar with working with the SEPA. At the time, Board of Trade Awards, which was in Stirling Castle. We've been very well supported successfully in Glasgow, Chamber of Commerce, and then in Inverness, Chamber of Commerce, where we won, for example, Cairngorm Business of the Year for 3 years, so we were able to keep the trophy after 3 years. It was ours for keeps. And the brands, we've done very well with the brands. So the brand really is Spear brand. It's so successfully now around the world. When we first bought the business, it was only being sold in Taiwan. The core business is in Taiwan. I lived in Taiwan for about 20 years. Completely lost my Geordie accent. But the business is now global, and 65% of the business is in Taiwan. That's supported by the future of the brand. Our values, we successfully sustain ethical performances, whether it's with the health and safety, customs, SEPA, our existing employment rota, where we've got a female managing director, for example, Patricia Dillon, we've got a female distiller. We want to secure these jobs for these people and then expand again in the future. Sustainable future, we're members of the Scotch Whisky Association, which is the policing body, if you like, of the industry, proud members of that. I was a director of the Cairngorm Business Partnership for many years. And we've developed our business ethically and with energy, water, waste, all proven in our operations with the existing distillery. Our relationship with the area, we sponsor Thunder in the Glen, so we're very strong sponsors of Thunder in the Glen. So we have the same hopes that the future of the Thunder in Aviemore will be secured. We host various events from our snug shop. We have a retail shop in Aviemore. We also sponsor go-kart racing, the ice rink, the King Easy Shinty Club. We sponsor charity events in King Easy High School, for example, where they have a Chinese teacher. We've had Chinese visitors who've gone and supported that effort. Very briefly, my wife is our artist in residence. So my wife has sponsored Highland Hospice with the painted cows, the artist cows. So that's the snug in Aviemore. We've had it for 5 years. It helps the local economy, and it also connects what is a busy retail portal in Aviemore to our distillery in Kingussie, and then hopefully to our distillery in Lagan. So we'd like to do all of these works that we do locally now in the Lagan area as well. It's just a natural extension for ourselves. So the reasons for relocating, there is a need to grow. We have a big market in Taiwan. We're very familiar with Asia. We see the opportunities in China and India, but particularly in China, to be enormous. So we must prepare.
Can I ask you to wrap up now?
Yes. So there's just the headers as to why we want to put our future in the Cairngorm National Park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, members, you've heard from the distillery team, so any questions? Russell, you want to put your question again?
Yeah, I just wondered if you could explain to us who actually owns the road. Is it a forestry road? And do you have an agreement in place with them that you have access in there for the lifetime of the distillery? And is there any formal arrangement about how that road is maintained, other than just a verbal statement that it will be maintained? Thank you.
Sorry, the title of the land that we bought, which includes that track, is ours. So we own that track. But we bought it with servitudical rights to people like SSE and Forestry Commission. And between the three of us, there's an agreement as to how the road is repaired. So, for example, the SSE repaired the road in September of this year, and the Forestry Commission did a similar improvement at the top end, near to the A86 in August. But we have a commitment between the three of us to maintain the road to a good repair, and we're in discussions at the moment as to how to even improve that. And we've made the commitment to the top end beside the Strathmassic cottages to do that as an immediate stage. But the road repairs are guaranteed between the three. Ownership is ours of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Lauren? Okay.
Yeah, just to, I guess, address some of the community council concerns. Maybe Russell or Kenny can keep me right here, but the school at Lagan has been closed, so the kids are going to have to go to, I guess, Kingussie Primary School it be. So just to, I think there was concerns around some of the bus stop and the lighting, especially if kids are having to go to school. Is there an opportunity for that to be addressed within the application? That's my question.
It is a question to you, but I'm not sure if it's, would it be a planner's response first? Maybe,
Yeah,
Lauren?
sorry, that was maybe
Okay.
for the former part.
Yes, you're correct that that is a concern of the community, and it was also a concern of the roads department, transport team. And there is a condition here, condition number 15, which says that they shouldn't start on site until we get details of how they're going to formalise safe school bus pick-up and drop-off at that junction, and that they should, and it's been recommended within discussions with the agent that they discuss that with the community as well, but that we have to get details of how they're going to. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, I'm not close enough. We have to have details of that from the applicant by condition. So condition number 15 covers that.
Okay, so that is going to be addressed?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
just a clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I know the applicant's got a track record of maintaining good grounds. If you've ever been to Trolling Mills, it's a very impressive location and well maintained. So I don't know if I've got confidence in the planting that's proposed, I think. But my question is around the traffic situation. My understanding is the current situation at Trolling Mills is you can book by appointment to see round and visit the distillery. And now there's no mention of that in the proposal that I could find, and I wonder if you could clarify that, please.
Thank you for your question. The current distillery is private, so the visitors are there's no walk-in visitors allowed. What we do through the Snoke shop is we organise some selective visits down, maybe 2 or 3 times a week of 10 or 12 people, because the distillery is not really geared up for visitors. It's geared up for VIPs. So we have VIPs come over from Asia on a regular basis in the summer. That will be exactly the same model that we will do with Lager. It will be a private distillery. It won't be open to the public. There's no visitor centre as such. It's only going to be utilised by VIPs travelling from overseas or from small select groups organised from the Snook shop in Athenborough.
I've got Derek and then Anne Ross online.
There's research going on at the moment into the effects of the Angel's Share on the environment. I'm talking about not just the blackening that goes on in buildings from the Angel's Share and surrounding landscape and buildings, but the actual effects of the gas that's going on. Is there any are you going to be mitigating that in your warehousing? Is there any way of looking at that in terms of the future?
There is, thank you. This is a very valid point. As I said earlier, we're members of the Scotch Whisky Association. So the Scotch Whisky Association is the policing body of the industry, but it's very, very much on top of topics. And one of the top topics is the Angels share, or the greed of the Angels, if you like. Yeah. We had a bonded warehouse when we first bought the business, which is in Rutherglen in Glasgow, and that was quite close to a housing estate, and the damage that was caused there was visible. In the area there where we will be, where we hopefully will be, that type of damage will not be of a concern, but we will follow the lead from the Scotch Whisky Association when they make their recommendations as to how the carbon exchange will be from the Angel share. So that's something that we are working alongside the Scotch Whisky Association, and we will follow their recommendations when it's concluded.
I'm not an expert by any means in this area, but I think it's something we, as a planning committee, have to keep our eye on, because there's a lot of whisky industry in the area, and I believe it's been looked at, and perhaps Gavin, the head of planning, knows more about it. But I think there's a report due from government on this particular issue.
Yes, I mean there's no planning guidance on this, and this is just emerging science, and that we would expect would be picked up by SEPA through the regulation of all the bonded warehouses and things, which is fairly significant as it is. So as soon as there's more evidence of something else, then there'll be new regulations published which will apply to all warehousing. I mean, I suppose the advantage of newer warehousing like this is it's probably easier to adapt for any changes which come in future.
Thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
Anne Ross online.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everybody. My question is regarding the freshwater mussels in the Spey. And I've read the habitat survey, the habitat regulations appraisal, I should say. And I've just got, from that, I gather that you're hoping that there won't be any damage to the freshwater mussel population, but it does say that there could be short-term effects during construction. And I would like to know how you're going to mitigate that, because the freshwater mussels are under such danger just now. I would hope there wouldn't be any damage to them and that they wouldn't be displaced. Could you assure me, please, that you're doing absolutely everything within your powers, that there will be no pollution and that they won't be damaged?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. We work very closely with the Spey Fishery Board. So with Roger Knight and his team, we've looked at how we could collaborate with the Spey Fishery Board for the mussels, but also for the smolts, the small immature salmons and trouts.
Mm-hmm.
So we have discussed with the Spey Fishery Board that we could potentially sponsor the smolts, which are the traps that trap small salmon beyond the dam to ensure that their health and welfare is secured on a longer term basis at our part of the River Spey, which is immediately after the dam, to make sure that their welfare is maintained and secured thereafter. So we are actively involved with the Spey Fishery Board, and we can extend that conversation to the mussels as well as the smolts traps.
I'd maybe worth just adding as well that there are conditions recommended around pollution prevention plans, ecological clerical works. So, as John says, we'll be working with officers, Spey Fishery, SEPA, whoever we need to put that in place and ensure that's robust.
Thank you.
It's just a response really to Anne. With a different hat on, I conducted the freshwater pearl mussel survey on the whole length of the River Spey, and a few years ago, and the area that we're talking about here is a considerable distance from it. The nearest pearl mussels there, many kilometres downstream of this location. So, and since there's not any work within the site, I think that the standard conditions to protect the river water quality should suffice, and the mussels will be protected.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you.
On anything that you've heard? No, you're okay? Okay, okay, members, can I open it up for discussion then? Thank you, Russell.
Hey, thanks, Chair. I'd just like to say I am supportive of this application, and thank you for the clarity around the access road. And also, I've read that I didn't see it before in the papers, but I see this morning you've now committed to tarring 50 metres off that road. I'm sure it will be in your own interest, and I'm sure you will with your track record, but I mean, perhaps you could keep in touch with Lagan Community Council and the local community council maybe after a year of operation, just to see that everything is okay at the cottages there, etc., because that's obviously been a point of concern. And if that was, if you were happy to do that, then other than that, I think it's good for the area. Sorry to see you leaving the backs of the Tromie, but pleased that you'll still be in. Pleased that you'll still be in Badenoch and Strathspey indeed, and I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Fiona online. Fiona McLean.
Thank you. Lovely to have you back, Catherine. Yeah, I also support this application. I just have a couple of comments. One is that for the retention of the General Wade Road, there was mention of careful use of stones from the ruin of St Michael's Chapel, and just to say, please be really careful about that and not start dismantling the chapel. That's just an aside. But what I would like to say, though, there was a suggestion to include interpretation on historic assets, and I would really welcome that. I think that would be, a really useful and helpful addition. And I wondered if we could have that as an advisory, because I do think that would be an important part of this development, to actually interpret the historic assets that are there already, the St Michael's, the General Wade Roads, and so on. So I just wondered if that could be an advisory. Thank you.
Yeah, that point has been raised by the archaeologist as well, and ourselves of the agent. And condition number 24 does say that we've got to get details of the salvaging of the stone from the St Michael's Chapel, and also details of any proposed interpretation of the cultural history, because we do feel like yourself is a really big opportunity for the General Wade Road, for the chapel, everything, to have some sort of interpretation, and the applicants are agreeable to that condition. So we will be getting details of that in due course.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fiona. Derek?
Thanks very much for contribution and for Catherine's exposition of the application. I think it's a very good application, and I would recommend that we approve and put that forward. Propose that, please.
Yeah, I think we've got an applicant here with a good track record. We've got a good application in front of us. We've got a robust set of conditions. I can tell by the amount of questioning that members are basically content with the application, and therefore I think we're looking to agree this application. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, thank you very much, distillery team. That application is approved. We're going to take a 10-minute comfort break, folks, and that'll let just a wee bit of movement. And so back here, 10 to 8 minutes. What do you? 10 to. Come on. Back to work.
Back to work, yeah.
Right, are we all back? Yeah, good. And we're back online. Everybody there? Good. Can we move on to item 7 on today's agenda then? And that is for the application to vary the expiry date of a condition on a previous application, which is on the bunding at ground at Kincraig. And Ed, you ready to take us through this one?
Thank you, Eleanor.
Thank you.
So this is an application to retain a former A9 site compound. The site was built around 2016 when construction works concluded on the A9 section of the Kincraig section of the A9, the site was cleared of infrastructure, and in 2020 the estate applied for a temporary permission to retain the site while investigations were undertaken for further uses of the site. This aerial image shows the current site, and while this shows how it has progressed, and this one shows previous aerial images and shows how it's regressed and progressed over time, over the time of the A9 works and beyond. This is the current Google Street View of the site, and these ones show the previous views of the site from the A9. You'll see on the right-hand image there is a bund that was built during the works, and this is no longer present on the site. And lastly, this is how the site currently looks today from the fence to the north. Onto the considerations. The principle of retaining the site is whether it is considered appropriate for this site to remain for a further 3 years. Any future use of the site is not a material consideration of this application. However, the retention does allow investigations to be carried out whilst giving the planning authority control over the site. And in the case that nothing happens over the next 3 years, we can control the site to return it back to the agricultural land that it was back before the A9 works. The key issue is with the retention is the landscaping. The site is closer to the original condition than it was 3 years ago, and largely the only aspect remaining being the fence surrounding the site. But the bund mentioned earlier is no longer in situ. And just for clarity, a landscaping plan has been received this week. However, it's not been assessed yet, so I've not included it in the plans or the presentation. We will assess it in due course. And the ecology advisor has confirmed there's no environmental issues regarding the site. And as the landscaping is considered to be at a level not unexpected in its location, the recommendation for the site is one of approval, subject to permission being temporary for a further 3 years, and a condition requiring the disposal of the surface water from the site and not onto the public road network. And as such, the recommendation is approval.
Thanks, Ed. Derek, questions of clarity.
This one came before us before, didn't it? Yeah, it would only be the three of us that I think that would have been around then. It's still a bit of a mess, though, isn't it? Sorry, I'm maybe straying into the debate.
I think the point is that the permission was given for the extension just prior to COVID. So the COVID gets blamed for a lot. Sorry, the permission was for extension was given just at COVID time, and as we all know, COVID gets blamed for everything. But in fairness, they wouldn't have been able to do that much during that time, I think, is the reasoning.
Yeah, that's right. I think it's also, I would disagree that it's necessarily a mess. The site isn't visible from many locations. So yes, if you go up into it from the entrance off the road, then you can see the hard standing and where the services are located. But from most other views, you see what now looks like, and has sheep grazing it as well, you see what looks like other fields in the area. So it's close. It's not particularly visible. So this simply means that those services remain in place for a little bit longer. They have to go at the end of this, or the estate has to come up with some other proposal.
I'll take your word for that, Gavin. But I mean, the photograph didn't make it look terribly appealing. But I'll take your word that we can't see an awful lot of it.
Okay. Any other questions of clarity? Don't see anybody online either. Okay. Any discussion required? Happy to approve this application? Yeah, there you go. There you go, Ed. That permission is approved. Thank you. Right, we'll press on with item 8, and Gavin, you're going to take us through this. And this is the construction of a new link footpath / cycle route, and it's within the Charter's Chest Woodland, which, if members can visualise, Invercold Bridge on the road to Braemar. It's just slightly nearer Braemar than that, and heading towards a network of paths in that area that exists already. So, Gavin.
Great, thanks very much. Yes, so the committee has approved a path in this location previously. We're not going to show you all of that, but this is the application site here. So that's the red line. It's effectively following on from a part of the previous consent that has been built. It's a very nice path that runs through the woods and then close to the roadside. You can see it from the roadside as you're driving there. Round about the point where this is to the eastern side, the original design was heading up across a pretty steep, very loose scree slope, partly covered in vegetation. And when the contractors went out to build it, they realised it physically wasn't possible to do so, given the stability of the ground there. So that part of the section was abandoned, and this application is now to create a proper, physically constructible route to reach the same point as before. So that's the aerial view of the line through the trees. And just to note that the tree survey has been done, and it avoids all of the trees, so there's no need for any trees to be taken out as part of this. That's the original line there in blue. So you can see where it starts to diverge from the red line close to the road. That's where we're having our new bit, and our new route now travels very close to the main road, simply because that's the only practical place it can go. So there are some challenges with that, which we can explain as we go through it. Those are just some photos of the line of construction for the original path through the earlier parts of the site. These are street view images which show pretty much where the route will now go. So if you can see that there's almost a bench behind that retaining wall to the side of the road. The route of the new path is going to be there immediately beside the road. Obviously that has its own challenges, which I'll come on to in construction, and then it travels a little bit further on before then starting to take a more gentle route up across those slopes between the trees with a zigzag at the top in order to gain height. But it's a full-sized wide path that will be suitable for many users. I mean, there is still going to be some steeper sections on it because of the nature of the ground, but it will be a very, very important local path for Braemar, and eventually maybe part of a longer Deeside way. So that's the sort of construction on the easier parts of the ground, with fairly standard path construction, good practice being followed. This is the construction that's going to have to be employed where it's beside the road. So in effect, there's going to have to be a reinforced gabion basket wall towards the roadside. Obviously fencing installed within that so that it's safe for everybody. And then an infill behind it, and then a platform formed on that. So that will carry on for about 100, 200 metres along the roadside before it can then head away from the road and follow the route up the hillside. So that's a timber and rail fence along the roadside. Where it's not along the roadside, obviously there'll simply be a return to the standard stock fence that runs along the roadside, and there won't be any need for that sort of extra safety measure. So the main issues are the principle of development, which we have previously established, and in fact this route will have less impact in terms of landscape and impact on the habitats in that area because it's so close to the roadside, and it's employing it doesn't require as much cut and fill into the hillside. Clearly there's extra work to be done on pre-construction protected species surveys, work on making sure that boulders are moved carefully within the designated site in the area. But all the consultees are satisfied that that's possible to do within this area. And the landscape impact, as I say, they're actually less than the previous scheme because it's not taking a route across such a steep loose slope, so there's less movement of material that's needed. That bench along the roadside, although it'll be visible from the road more obviously in places, clearly very close, and obviously at some times probably the least pleasant part of this route for the people using it, but it's only a short section. Once it heads away from the road, then you end up with that gap between you and the traffic, so it'll be much more pleasant. So we're satisfied that this is a better route than the previous one and we recommend approval.
Thanks, Gavin. Any matters of clarity for Gavin? Yes, Sandy.
I think this point has been covered in general terms, but a member who can't be present but has read the papers is just looking for an assurance that all parts of path that run next to the busy road will be covered by that extra fencing provision.
Yes, they will, and even if that wasn't there as part of the application, then they wouldn't be allowed to open it because of the road safety issues anyway. So yes, we have a design there for the post and rail, which I think is as good as you could have as far as safe fencing goes within that area.
Thank you.
Anne online. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Can I ask how close to the road it is, please?
Yeah, and at its lowest section where it runs alongside the road, it is immediately beside the road. So it will be above the current sort of, well, retaining wall, which is at times falling down. But if you know that section, then there's a wall. If you're heading towards Braemar, there's a wall on the left. And then at various points, there's either a slight bench behind that, or it's still a slope. So where there's a slope, that needs to be cut out to form the path. And in some cases, the route will need to be reinforced with those gabion baskets, and then sort of above them, so that it's slightly set above the road.
Thank you.
Okay, can we go into the discussion phase of this application then? I think there's been a lot of to and fro with this application, and when the last route proved impossible, then a new route had to be consulted on, and I think it meets the community's expectations now. What they want is a link into that path nearer the village. I think there was a desire for it to be an all abilities path, but that's just not possible in this landscape. Gavin, am I right?
Yeah, the gradients mean that it would be challenging for it wouldn't meet all the ability standards, but it's wide enough and the surface will be of the right kind of surface. It's just that the gradients mean that it just wouldn't be possible to do it without having very many multiple switchbacks across that slope, which would probably mean that it was more path and cut than hillside.
So are we then content to approve this application? Yeah. Very good, members. Then that application is approved. Thank you. Okay, we're going back to Ed to take us through item 9, and it is for detailed planning permission for construction of a 634 metre ATV track, and the purpose is for woodland management back at Lagan. Ed.
Yep, thank you, Eleanor. So this is an application for a woodland track just outside Lagan on the Cool Estate. As explained within the report, the track is part retrospective, as around 300 metres has already been constructed. This slide shows the map, which explains that the track crosses a burn that feeds into a larger watercourse that then connects into the River Spey SAC. That's the aerial image, just showing it in context with the ground cover. As you can tell on that one, it wasn't constructed then. I think that was around 2021 that image was taken. So it shows that the track hasn't been in place all that long. A few images of the track as it's been constructed, as well as the woodland that it sits within. And a plan that hasn't actually gone into the appendices. However, we've included it here, just explaining the construction. A standard 2 metre wide ATV track, and the track will be built, as built, will require some further intervention, and just explaining the culvert that crosses the burn, as well as the woodland enclosure that has partly been erected as well. The applicant has confirmed that the purpose of the track will improve accessibility in the southwest and east of the existing woodland creation. It will also improve access to the adjacent grounds by offering a direct route to the base of the various schemes in the area. It will also cross the watercourse within the existing woodland creation at a suitable location, as further up the glen, access across this watercourse becomes more challenging and disruptive. The track will be required for continuing woodland maintenance and deer control until both existing and new woodlands are fully established. So the main issues, the principle of the track is primarily and initially for woodland creation and management, similar to the ATV track that we approved in August. This one might have other uses beyond the management of the woodland. However, as confirmed, it is for its primary purpose is woodland creation, and it's not a track that's in open moorland, as it is covered by trees, and the screening will cover it in due course. There are some environmental concerns, however, with the submission of a construction method statement that covers the pollution prevention, as well as protected species surveys. The proposal will comply with the policies within MPF4 and the LDP, and accordingly, a recommendation is one of approval.
Thanks, Ed. Okay, members, questions or clarity? Yeah, Peter?
Was there any explanation for why construction started without consent in the first place?
I haven't had that confirmation. I asked for further information, but they haven't explained why it was done. I think they've just jumped the gun a little bit.
Yeah, Chris.
I noticed that the track serves the bottom third of the plantation, but nothing at the top. Is there any reason?
Can you, sorry, say that again?
I'm so looking at the map. Okay, I noticed that the track serves really the bottom third of the plantation area. Okay, but doesn't seem to serve the top 2/3. Is there a reason for that?
It's just create access into that creation. I don't. They've obviously applied for what they think they will need, and they obviously don't consider it necessary to have a track leading further into the woodland creation scheme.
Okay, I've just taken a minute to look around for any other questions, but I don't think there is. Are we saying we're happy with this application? Yes. Okay, it's approved as well, Ed. Thank you very much. Right, item 10 in the agenda is our report card, if you like, from Scottish Government. It's our planning performance feedback. And Gavin, you're going to take us through this one.
Yeah, I'm not going to say very much because it's just for information. Obviously pleasing to have got green everywhere as we did the previous year, and just reflects a lot of hard work by the team. Yeah, it's good to know, and as always, we always know that it doesn't tell the whole story, and obviously we have our own work to make sure that we're all providing a good service, but it's nice to have that feedback from Scottish Government. Worth pointing out that in future this will be slightly different probably, because as part of the modernisation of planning, there's now a planning improvement champion who's employed by the Improvement Service, whose job will be to change the way that, to help improvement in planning authorities, but also part of that is likely to be a change in the way that we report these things in future. Possibly not next year because he hasn't had very much time to get into this yet, but in future years there'll probably be some changes in the way we report our improvements.
Thanks, Gavin. Yeah, as usual, Gavin sells himself short. I think to get, another consistently good report card, even if it doesn't tell the whole story of planning, I think it's a good result, and it does show the hard work and dedication that we get from our planning team. So I commend the team for their work. Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything, or are you happy to note that for information? Sandy?
Just briefly, and to underline your comments, Eleanor, and accepting the provisos, Gavin, this is an excellent result during a time of considerable continuing pressures for planning. So congratulations.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay, AOCB, I don't have any, unless anybody's got anything last minute. Okay, let's just say that the date of the next meeting then is the 8th of December. And we look forward to having our new convener in post, planning convener in post at that date. Are members content that we move now into a private session to consider the minutes from the previous confidential session and also get an update on enforcement issues? Yeah? Okay, so can we close off the public session at this point and switch